Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take the info you're curious about and, well, really dig in.
That's the idea.
Today, you pointed us towards a really interesting one, Houttuynia cordata, the chameleon plant.
Right.
You want to get up to speed quickly, get a solid handle on it, and yeah, we're on it. We'll bring you the key stuff.
And the main source you shared is perfect for this, a YouTube video featuring Sam Coffman from The Human Path.
Yeah, he seems like the right person to listen to on this.
Absolutely. I mean, his background alone is, wow. You've got a Green Beret medic, a registered herbalist, and he holds a master's in acupuncture and oriental medicine.
That's a serious combination of, practical field experience and deep traditional knowledge.
It really is. It gives him this unique lens,
And he kicks things off with a really interesting point about plants often called invasive.
He prefers opportunistic.
Right. And he argues that a lot of these really vigorous plants actually have significant medicinal value.
And he puts Houttuynia cordata right in that category.
Which immediately makes you think, doesn't it?
Mm.
Is its ability to thrive everywhere connected to how it might help us?
It's a great question. Could those very survival traits translate into compounds that help our bodies handle stress or inflammation?
So that really sets the stage for what we're digging into today. As requested, we'll hit the traditional uses in traditional Chinese medicine.
TCM.
How Coffman is kind of built on that, especially for respiratory issues, even mentioning COVID.
And crucially, his unique way of extracting the medicine from it, that multifractional thing.
Okay, let's start with the traditional angle. Coffman mentions the Chinese name Yuxing Kao.
Yuxing Kao, yeah. It apparently translates to something like fish plant or fishy-smelling herb.
Fishy-smelling herb. Okay, that definitely paints a picture. Doesn't sound too appealing initially.
Maybe not. But in traditional Chinese medicine, that name connects to its function. It's classified as an herb that's really good at clearing toxic heat.
Clearing toxic heat. Okay, unpack that for me in sort of modern terms. What does that mean?
Think of it as TCM's way of describing conditions with intense inflammation, maybe infection. Like the body's overheated, overreacting.
So traditionally, they'd use it when things were inflamed or infected?
Exactly. Primarily for issues in the respiratory system and the urinary tract.
Ah, okay. So things like coughs, bronchitis.
Yes, or urinary tract infections. Anywhere you might see that kind of heat pattern according to TCM principles.
Got it. So solid history there. Now, this is where Sam Coffman's experience comes in, right? He takes that foundation and seems to, run with it.
He really does. While TCM focuses on that heat in specific areas, Coffman uses Houttuynia cordata much more broadly for respiratory tract inflammation in general.
Okay, just general inflammation.
Yeah.
Or is it more specific?
Well, he gets more specific. What's really interesting is his idea that it acts as a mast cell inhibitor.
Mast cell inhibitor. Okay, what are mast cells and why would inhibiting them be good?
So mast cells are part of your immune system. They're kind of like first responders. They release histamine and other inflammatory stuff when they detect allergens or injury.
Right, like in allergies.
Exactly. In things like asthma, COPD, seasonal allergies, sinusitis, these mast cells can go into overdrive. Too much inflammation, too many symptoms.
So inhibiting them would calm that down.
That seems to be Coffman's thinking. By dialing back that mast cell reaction, Houttuynia could potentially reduce things like swelling, mucus, the stuff that makes you miserable in an allergic reaction or asthma flare-up.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's not just anti-inflammatory in a vague way. He's proposing a specific mechanism.
Precisely. And that mechanism could explain why he finds it useful for such a range of things. Acute asthma, chronic COPD flare-ups, hay fever.
And sinusitis, too, he mentioned.
Yeah, and he talks about different types of sinusitis, allergic, viral, bacterial, even tricky ones involving biofilms. The idea that one herb could potentially help across those different causes is quite something.
Does he say how to use it for sinuses? Just taking it?
He mentions taking it orally, of course, but also using it directly, like in a neti pot or a nasal rinse.
A direct application. Makes sense.
And he even touches on using it topically for skin things like eczema or poison ivy, again connecting back to that anti-inflammatory idea.
Now, this next part is obviously very relevant given the last few years. Coffman using it in formulas for COVID.
Yes, he talks about observing a soothing effect on the inflammatory processes during COVID infections.
The soothing effect.
And he even speculates it might help with some of the intravascular inflammation, the inflammation inside blood vessels, which became a big concern with severe COVID.
Wow. Connecting a traditional heat-clearing herb to potentially modulating the body's response to a novel virus like that.
It's definitely thought-provoking. It shows how traditional wisdom might offer clues for new challenges.
It really does. Okay,
Yeah.
let's shift gears to something Kaufman clearly emphasizes his extraction method, this multifractional technique.
Absolutely. He's very clear that he thinks Houttuynia works much, much better this way compared to just a standard alcohol tincture.
Why is that? What's wrong with a simple tincture?
Well, he believes you miss out on important stuff. A simple tincture mostly pulls out alcohol-soluble compounds. He wants the water-soluble ones, too. He thinks you need both for the full effect.
So his method captures more of the plant's chemistry.
That's the goal. His
Yeah.
process is quite specific.
Okay, walk me through it. How does he do it?
He starts with water and glycerin. So a water-based extraction first.
Glycerin. Okay.
And then, interestingly, he adds a bit of honey and apple cider vinegar.
Honey and ACV. Really? Why?
He says it helps pull out the water-soluble compounds more effectively, maybe improves the taste too, but primarily for a better quality water extraction.
That's not something you hear every day in tincture making. Wonder if they add their own benefits too.
That's a great point. Herbal synergy, maybe?
Hmm.
Anyway, after that water, glycerin, honey, ACV step, he strains the liquid off.
Okay.
Then he takes the leftover plant material, the marc, and rinses it with strong alcohol, 95% alcohol.
So now he's going after the alcohol-soluble compound.
Exactly. He captures those, and then he combines that alcohol extract with the first water-based extract.
And that makes the final product.
Yes, the final product is shelf-stable, and he aims for about 40% alcohol overall. It's a deliberate capture of different fractions of the plant's constituents.
So water first, then alcohol, then combine. A much more involved process than just soaking herbs in vodka.
Definitely. His rationale is getting a better, more complete product because he feels key components are better extracted by water initially. The alcohol then gets the rest and preserves it.
He also mentioned which parts of the plant he uses, right?
Yes, he uses the whole plant root and the aerial parts, the leaves and stems. He notes the aerial parts are more common, but he personally prefers to include the root. He feels it adds something important to the medicine's effect.
Interesting. Doesn't detail why exactly, but it's his clinical experience speaking.
Seems like it. One of those nuances you pick up over time, I suppose.
Right. Okay, just to loop back briefly to where we started, that idea about the plant being invasive or opportunistic.
Yeah, he kind of brings it back around.
He draws that parallel between how it thrives in disturbed places and how it might help with inflammation, like healing disturbed internal environments.
It is a neat way to think about it. Like these plants that rush into damaged landscapes might have the tools to help repair damage or inflammation within us too. A kind of ecological echo.
Yeah, connecting the micro and the macro. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've got Houttuynia cordata, a.k.a. Yuxing Kao.
The fishy herb.
The fishy herb, yeah. Traditionally used in TCM for toxic heat, especially respiratory and urinary stuff.
Right, inflammation and infection in those areas.
Then Sam Coffman expands on that, uses it widely for respiratory inflammation, maybe acting as a mast cell inhibitor.
Which could help with asthma, allergies, sinusitis.
And he's even explored it during COVID, noting its potential anti-inflammatory effects.
And key to his whole approach is that multifractional extraction water, glycerin, honey, ACV, then an alcohol rinse to get a fuller spectrum of compounds.
Compared to a simple tincture, using the whole plant, including the root.
That's a great summary. It really covers the journey from ancient tradition to modern clinical use and specific preparation methods.
It really shows the layers, doesn't it? A plant some people see as a garden pest, but potentially holding all this therapeutic value.
That duality is fascinating.
It really makes you think, if this supposedly problem plant has so much going on, how many other plants that we dismiss as weeds or invaders might actually be holding overlooked benefits? Especially if we start looking at them through different lenses, like traditional knowledge combined with maybe more advanced techniques like multifractional extraction. What else is out there waiting?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It definitely pushes you to look closer at the green world around us, maybe with a bit more respect and curiosity. There's always more to learn.